"Arrest her now. She's armed," Claudia Mercer screamed into her phone, pointing straight at Dana, my wife, in our barn. Sirens wailed down the gravel drive, cameras lifted, neighbors streaming live. The HOA mob was advancing, convinced they were stopping criminals. Dana sipped her coffee, calm as sunrise, that smile flickering across her face. My stomach dropped. Every second escalated the crowd, the sirens, the cameras, and then it hit me, the woman Claudia thought she was catching red-handed was the new police chief of our county. The sun hadn't fully risen when Claudia Mercer appeared at our front gate, clipboard clutched like a weapon. She didn't knock. She shoved open the gate and marched toward the barn, heels scraping gravel, eyes locked on Dana. "I'm here about your barn," she said sharply, voice tight with authority, already measuring the angles of the door with a tape in her hand. I scrambled after her, still in pajamas, fumbling to keep up. Claudia snapped photos from low angles, muttering about violations, gaps, angles, non-compliance, and security hazard. Every step she took radiated control, as if she owned the 6 acres we'd just purchased. She barked instructions at imaginary assistants, flipping pages of her clipboard like she was auditioning for a courtroom drama. Then she spotted Dana fresh from the shower, coffee in hand, and froze. Her hand wavered mid-point, her face drained of color. Something about Dana struck fear in her, though she tried to mask it with a brittle smile. "I'll be sending you a formal notice of violations," she stammered, her voice suddenly less certain. She retreated toward her car, clipboard pressed to her chest, leaving a trail of half-measured tape behind her. I caught my breath, staring at Dana, who sipped her coffee calmly. That look, the one that always meant she knew something I didn't, flickered across her face. And I realized Claudia had no idea the rules she thought she controlled didn't apply to the person she'd just threatened. This morning wasn't just about a barn. It was about to become a collision course between obsession and authority. 3 hours after Claudia's first visit, my inbox exploded. Subject lines screamed, "Unauthorized acoustic disturbances and vehicle improperly parked." I stared at the emails, scrolling through absurdity. My truck supposedly angled wrong, my table saw, creating sonic violations at 6:03 a.m., hours before I'd even touched it. I made a folder called Mercer's Greatest Hits and started documenting each. Dana leaned against the counter, watching me with that calm smile. "Keep screenshots, times, dates, angles, every one of them," she said. I realized then that Claudia wasn't just petty, she was preparing a war. That night I heard faint shuffling outside. Motion lights tripped at 2:10 a.m. I dragged myself to the window. Claudia, dressed in black, was army crawling across the lawn, tape measure in her teeth, stopping to jot on a small pad. A quick glance revealed she'd left tiny marked strips of tape on the barn siding. Brent, her nephew, peered from behind a tree, with a camera clearly documenting the crime scene. Even in pajamas, I knew I had to record everything. Dana gave me a small nod. "We'll need this later." I swallowed hard. This wasn't harassment anymore. This was preparation. By dawn, Claudia escalated. She set up a massive telephoto lens on a tripod from her deck across the property line. Night vision goggles hung around her neck. She appeared to be scouting for a wildlife documentary, but her focus was our barn. Dana jogged past the window at 5:00 a.m., duffel bag slung over her shoulder, barn key in hand. Claudia froze, mid-click, eyes widening. She'd been caught, but she didn't back down. Instead, she dropped onto the grass and crawled closer to measure window frames, occasionally popping up to snap photos. Brent tried tailing me earlier in his bright orange Mustang, pretending to check paint samples while taking pictures. I caught a glimpse of him hiding behind a coffee shop newspaper with badly cut eye holes. Every move Claudia made was now documented by multiple cameras, including her own security squad she'd been recruiting from neighbors. Claudia left behind a dropped page from her clipboard, handwritten notes, old county records, references, and the name D, cross-circled multiple times. My stomach sank. She had begun connecting dots. Dana's expression remained calm, sipping coffee. "Let her dig," she whispered. "Everything she needs to make herself vulnerable is already in our hands." Over the next 2 days, Claudia's obsession transformed into near sabotage. She camped in the bushes with a camouflage blanket lens, focused on the barn for 45 minutes at a time. Every tape strip she placed became a breadcrumb, every photo angle a weapon in her delusional narrative. Her HOA security team started forming neighbors. She roped into matching shirts, phones raised to record live commentary. She held a whiteboard diagramming approach routes like a tactical assault plan. My peaceful workshop, my sanctuary, was now a target. Brent's tailing attempts were comical but invasive. At the hardware store, he pretended to examine lumber while photographing me buying clamps. At the cafe, he nearly knocked over a latte as I walked by. The message was clear. She intended to document everything for a staged confrontation. Even casual interactions became chaotic. Local gossip reached me through a kindly elderly couple. Claudia claimed criminal operations were being run in our barn, alleging uniforms and suspicious vehicles. My jaw tightened. Everything I loved, my workshop, Dana's morning routines, was being twisted into evidence against us. Dana, unbothered, reviewed the photos and timestamps. "See the pattern?" she said. "Everything she thinks she's discovering, she's revealing herself." I realized she wasn't just watching. She was baiting Claudia, letting the obsession grow while keeping full control. Claudia's final escalation before dawn, she created Cedar Ridge Watch, an online HOA task force. 9 neighbors joined phones streaming live. Her message was clear at 5:30 a.m. They'd expose criminal activity in our barn. From our bedroom window, I watched her rally the group. She assigned roles, one filming, one documenting, one calling 911 if needed. She referred to a breach team marching them in formation across our lawn. Her excitement bordered on manic. Dana stood beside me, sipping her coffee. "Document everything," she instructed. Times, faces, equipment. Her tone was calm, unshakable. I realized the depth of her foresight. Claudia was about to overplay, and Dana was ready. At 5:30, Claudia led her squad across our field, phones up streaming live to an ever-growing audience. The barn loomed in the distance, red and imposing in the dawn light. The HOA security force hesitated, murmuring among themselves, unsure if this was right. Claudia's fist rose, pounding the barn door. "We know what you're doing. Open up." Dana's slow, deliberate sip of coffee signaled she was about to enter the scene on her terms. Claudia dialed 911 on speaker voice, high with excitement. "We have armed imposters impersonating police officers at this address. Send everyone you have." The HOA squad froze behind her phones, pointed toward the barn. View counts skyrocketed. Sirens blared in the distance. My heart thudded. Dana, calm as ever, walked past me, coffee mug in hand, and opened our front door. Her casual stride belied the tension in the air. Cameras followed every step. Claudia's eyes widened, jaw slack. "That's her. That's the one impersonating law enforcement," she shouted. Brent flinched behind the camera. Her squad whispered to each other, now unsure. From the gravel drive, 4 patrol cars screeched to a halt. Officers poured out, hands on belts, scanning the barn. Sergeant Alvarez's eyes met Dana's, and everything froze. Then he straightened, voice commanding yet respectful. "Chief Cross." The HOA squad gasped. Claudia staggered back, dropping her clipboard, tripping over her own makeshift no trespassing sign. Her vest and fake badge tangled in her hair. Cameras captured every moment. In a heartbeat, the raid turned into her total undoing. From the porch I watched, stunned, the obsession, the harassment, the entire escalation about to collapse spectacularly under Dana's quiet command. Every viewer, every phone, every witness was about to see Claudia Mercer's world implode. The HOA squad froze at the edge of the barn, phones streaming live, eyes wide. Claudia Mercer raised her fist, pounding the barn door. "Open up. We know what's happening in there. You're under investigation." Her voice cracked with adrenaline. I stood behind Dana, heart hammering. She didn't flinch. Coffee in hand, she stepped onto the gravel like she owned the morning, every movement deliberate. The cameras tracked her stroll. The HOA members behind Claudia shifted nervously. Even Brent, his orange Mustang idling across the field, swallowed hard. Dana's eyes locked on Claudia. "Good morning," she said, calm, almost amused. "How can I help you?" Claudia sputtered, waving papers like weapons. "We have evidence. Illegal activity, armed imposters. This barn." She gestured wildly at the red barn, now ominous in the dawn light. Dana took a measured step closer, allowing the silence to stretch long enough to be uncomfortable. The live stream chat exploded, viewers speculating wildly, numbers climbing past 20000. The HOA squad whispered among themselves, doubt flickering across their faces. Then came the sound of tires crunching on gravel. 4 patrol cars rounded the bend, sirens blaring. Claudia's eyes sparkled with triumph. Finally, they'll see what's really happening. The first officer stepped out, scanning the scene. His gaze fell on Dana, and his posture stiffened. I felt my stomach drop. Something shifted in the air. The supposed criminal in the barn wasn't just calm, she was the law. Sergeant Alvarez approached slowly, assessing the situation. His eyes widened as he recognized Dana. "Chief Cross," he said, voice sharp and reverent. The officers behind him snapped to attention, saluting in perfect synchrony. Claudia froze, mouth opening and closing like a fish out of water. The HOA squad dropped their phones, murmuring panic. Brent's face turned pale. Cameras were still recording, but the focus had shifted completely. Then came the unthinkable. Claudia's vest snagged on her fake badge as she stumbled backward. A folder and several tools spilled across the gravel, lockpicks, a small listening device, and a stack of copied law enforcement pages with Dana's name on top. The live stream chat erupted. Viewers caught every detail, sharing screenshots, GIFs, and memes in real time. Dana's expression hardened. Sergeant Alvarez, these appear to be... She gestured to the scattered items. Claudia scrambled to cover them, but the cameras caught it all. Her own obsession had become her undoing. The HOA squad melted away neighbors, realizing they'd been complicit in a farce. Claudia, still mid-scream, had no backup. Every angle, every misstep, every claim of criminal activity had been documented not by us, but by her own people. "Ma'am," Sergeant Alvarez said, stepping forward, "you're under arrest for filing a false emergency report, trespassing, stalking, and possession of illegal surveillance equipment. Additional charges pending for unauthorized access to law enforcement documents." Claudia's face paled. She tried to shout, "I'm the HOA president, I was protecting the community," but her voice cracked under the weight of reality. Brent stepped back, dropping his camera. The HOA security squad disbanded, fleeing or staring in disbelief. Dana remained calm, arms crossed, coffee mug still in hand. Her quiet authority contrasted sharply with Claudia's unraveling hysteria. I felt a mix of relief and awe. The barn, our sanctuary, had never looked so safe and so commanding under Dana's presence. Claudia tripped over her own no trespassing sign sprawling across the gravel phone still recording. The live stream captured the perfect angle. The HOA queen humbled, surrounded by real law enforcement, and the barn behind them quietly asserting its innocence. Viewers across the county and online exploded in reactions, memes, comments, disbelief. Claudia had orchestrated her own downfall. Every violation, every obsessive measurement, every false accusation had been broadcast for tens of thousands of witnesses. As she was handcuffed and led to the patrol car, Dana addressed the remaining neighbors. "Respect the law and each other. That includes understanding who you're confronting before calling in reinforcements." I exhaled slowly, the morning light spilling across the barn and our 6 acres. For the first time in days, peace seemed possible. But the chaos we'd witnessed, Claudia's obsession, the HOA mob, the live stream, would be a story retold for years. The morning sun cast long shadows across the gravel drive, highlighting every scattered clipboard, every dropped pen, and the deep red of our barn. Claudia Mercer sat on the patrol car tailgate, wrists cuffed, muttering under her breath, her face a mosaic of disbelief, fury, and humiliation. Behind her, the HOA security squad lingered awkwardly, shirts untucked, some fumbling to put phones away, others frozen, trying to process the spectacle they had helped create. Brent, her orange Mustang, idling in the background, leaned against it with a pale, slack-jawed expression, realizing he had been an unwilling witness to his aunt's unraveling. Neighbors peeked from their yards, some whispering timid apologies, others staring openly, gossipy, faces pale with embarrassment. A few braver souls cautiously approached, murmuring awkward greetings and waving weakly, silently acknowledging how they had been duped into participating in a delusion. Dana stepped forward, authoritative but calm, motioning to Sergeant Alvarez and his team. "Secure all remaining items and documents," she said, her voice steady. "Document every detail. Remind the neighbors blind trust without verification can be dangerous." I watched from behind her, coffee in hand, my workshop tools behind me, barn doors locked and unthreatened. The barn, which had felt like a target for days now, stood silent and commanding a fortress of calm amidst the chaos. The live stream viewers, still counting in the tens of thousands, were witnessing not just a confrontation, but a reversal, the obsessive antagonist undone by her own miscalculations. For the first time in days, I allowed myself a slow breath. The adrenaline, fear, and tension that had gripped me began to fade. Dana's calm presence radiated authority, and for the first time, the neighborhood seemed to understand that the barn and us were untouchable. This morning had been a crucible, and it had forged clarity, respect, and a restoration of order. Sergeant Alvarez began detailing the charges on site, ensuring that every neighbor and live stream viewer understood the gravity of Claudia's actions. False emergency reports, criminal trespassing, stalking, possession of illegal surveillance tools, and unauthorized access to law enforcement records, a list long enough to follow her indefinitely. Her previous unresolved warrants, now flagged, would compound her legal jeopardy. Dana oversaw the meticulous collection of every item: lockpicks, listening devices, the printed law enforcement pages with her name atop them, and the scattered HOA letters. Each piece was photographed, logged, and bagged. Even Brent, now pale and sheepish, realized he had been caught up in a spectacle with real consequences, witnessing his aunt's obsession collapse under evidence she had unwittingly provided. Neighbors hovered uneasily, some whispering about potential liability, others expressing stunned disbelief. The live stream chat exploded as viewers watched Claudia's downfall in real time. Screenshots and memes circulated rapidly, documenting every mistake, every claim, every obsessive measure she had taken against our barn. Her own overreach had created a permanent record of misconduct, witnessed by tens of thousands. Dana issued one final set of instructions to the officers: maintain control, secure the perimeter, and ensure every detail was documented. Her calm command contrasted sharply with the chaos Claudia had unleashed. I watched the HOA members slowly disperse, some hiding faces in shame, others silently deleting live streams. Every camera, every photo, and every live stream clip had captured the truth. Claudia Mercer's obsession had become her undoing. No courtroom, no later testimony, no distant consequence would be required. The evidence was all here at the ranch, witnessed and recorded in front of the entire community. With the officers clearing the remaining evidence and confiscated items, Dana turned to me with a small, satisfied smile. "The barn is officially a county satellite point now," she said. "Early briefings for patrol officers, no commute, no wasted time. Exactly what I intended." I followed her gaze to the barn. Sunlight glinted off the red beams, doors securely locked. Everything Claudia had tried to control was now firmly under Dana's authority. Brent lingered awkwardly, realizing that his surveillance and documentation had merely highlighted his aunt's folly. The HOA squad had dissolved, leaving a mix of shame, confusion, and whispered apologies. Even the gossiping neighbors kept their distance, hesitant to relive the spectacle they had been a part of. Dana sipped her coffee and glanced toward me. "Sometimes," she said softly, "people try to control what they don't understand. Let them. Observe. Document. Wait." Her tone carried the quiet confidence that had orchestrated the collapse of the entire confrontation. I let out a small laugh, shaking my head. "And sometimes," I said, "they call the cops on the actual chief of police without ever realizing it." Dana's eyebrow rose in mild amusement, the mysterious smile still playing at the corner of her lips. "Exactly. That's why you always check your neighbors before assuming the worst." I leaned against the barn door, feeling the warmth of the morning seep in. The 6 acres around us were finally silent. The chaos of the past week reduced to lessons in authority, patience, and the dangers of obsession. Claudia Mercer had broadcast her own demise to tens of thousands of viewers, unintentionally creating a viral cautionary tale of entitlement and paranoia. Dana straightened, locking the barn door behind her. The quiet authority she radiated a stark contrast to the HOA queen sprawled in the gravel just minutes earlier. I took a sip of my coffee, the aroma grounding me. The barn was safe. The HOA had been humbled, and for the first time in a week I could breathe. The lesson was clear, unforgettable, and cinematic. Never underestimate the person you're targeting, and always know who's really in charge.